The tough talking, no nonsense Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, Fred Matiang'i, has been celebrated for his work ethic, pushing through reforms, notably in the Ministry of Education and having served in the Lands and ICT ministries. But he stepped on more than a few toes with his straight-shooting ways on his way to President Uhuru Kenyatta's right side. Nation Media Group's editorial director, Mutuma Matthew, sat down with Matiang'i for a frank conversation on everything from how the monies intended to address the COVID-19 pandemic have been utilized to the corrupt deals he's become privy to extrajudicial killings. All that and more coming up on the NTV Weekend Edition. But first, let's take a look at the global COVID-19 numbers. Now we are past the 19.6 million mark in the number of infections reported. The deaths are over 725,000 and over 12.6 million have recovered. On the continent, over 1 million have been reported as infected, over 22,500 deaths reported with 709,000 recoveries. The number of infections in the US are over 5.1 million, 164,000 deaths and 2.6 million recoveries reported. Here's what else you can expect on NTV Weekend Edition.
Tonight, police brutality, power battles at the top, the culture of corruption.
You can see clearly cases where the project clearly you can see that the way they were started and so on, the intention was to loot public resources and stuff like that.
On tonight's big interview, Interior CS Fred Matiang'i. Also tonight,
and that is why when I was told to reinstate a lockdown, I said no.
Why you are still free to travel and marvel at the country's beauty, and why you hold the wand to the wonder that is magical Kenya.
You're making me jealous, but it's okay.
Also tonight, 5 more people succumb to COVID-19 as the government reiterates the need for discipline.
We have been accused of talking to Kenyans as if they are retarded. We have been accused of all sorts of things. Tumetukanwa.
Chaos in Kakamega preceded the COVID-19 update. Plus, here comes the bride, but you can't get inside.
Na nikaona mchungaji akisema sisi tukae hapa nje tutakuwa tukiwapungia mikono.
Inauma lakini nimeitikia tu.
Relatives and friends locked out of Murang'a wedding.
This is Weekend Edition with Olive Burrows.
Let's bring the COVID-19 numbers home. Kenya has reported 699 new infections out of a sample size of 7,175. That brings the total number of recorded infections to 25,837. Now, while assessing Kakamega County's COVID-19 preparedness on Saturday, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe reported 781 recoveries in the last 24 hours, bringing the number of those who've recovered in the country up to 11,899. Tragically, 5 have succumbed to the virus in the last 24 hours, bringing the death toll up to 418. Nairobi County continues to lead with the highest number of infections, the capital recording 414 new infections on Saturday. Kajiado comes in second with 81 new infections, Kiambu third with 54, and Machakos fourth with 36, Nakuru fifth with 21 new infections. In a bid to ensure county preparedness, the Ministry of Health says that it's planning on expanding its testing facilities. Currently, counties are not able to do so following lack of reagents and proper machines in certain counties. There are currently 32 testing centers within the country, but they're not spread out effectively to reach the 47 counties. Helena Ora reports.
Kakamega County is one of the counties that has surpassed the 300-bed capacity following the directive issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta in the face of increased spread of the coronavirus. The county now holds a 750-bed capacity.
The county government on its own has allocated 105 million for the fight against COVID-19. The national government dispersed to the county 262 million.
The allocation of 5 billion shillings to counties as a conditional grant in a bid to help fight COVID-19 sounds good. But the prudent use of it, or lack thereof, is sounding the death knell for the health sector. There have also been hiccups in terms of testing capacity within the counties.
Machines are American-made machines, and we have been trying desperately over the last 5 months or so because of the fact that they are used for testing other things, malaria and so on. And we have been trying to get them to get the reagents for testing.
Today, our per capita testing is 6 per 1,000 population, 71 per 10,000 population, and 705 per 100,000 population. In terms of testing, Kenya is ranked among the top 10 or 12 countries in Africa.
Kenyans have also been urged to adhere to the set guidelines, especially the youth.
A son who was tested and confirmed as positive for coronavirus refused to accept the diagnosis because, according to him, the virus is a myth and it does not exist. Based on this, he refused to self-isolate, which led to the infection of his sister and parents. As we speak, this family, whose first positive case is still alive, has lost an elderly family member, the head of the household, just 2 weeks after it lost and buried his mother.
For a region that is big on circumcision as a rite of passage, the Ministry of Health has urged all stakeholders to adhere to the set regulations, as the community elders who are leading the ceremonies are still in talks with the county. Helen Aura, NTV.
Don't you just miss the days you could dress up and attend your friend's wedding? I know I do. How I loved making those vitenges and looking glam to dance and celebrate with the new couples. Well, reality of the COVID-19 pandemic has hit guests at a wedding in Murang'a as they were denied entry into the church as they did not make the list of those who could attend the wedding. The lengths at which the couple went to obey the guidelines was celebrated as a good example. However disappointing it was for family and friends. Charity Mwangi reports.
At the Pefa Church in Joguine, Murang'a County, there were all the telltale signs of a colorful wedding. Decorated vehicles and a sizable crowd outside the church. It was all smiles for the friends and family of the handsome couple until a list was pulled out that would determine who among them would attend the much-anticipated wedding.
Listi ambayo niko nayo hapa ya wale watu ambao walikuwa waongoze ibada na watu wale ambao walikuwa wahudhurie harusi hii pamoja na wazazi wa bi na bwana harusi.
Only 15 guests would make the cut, and so many of the others who had made their way here would have to cope with the disappointment. Shortly after, the wedding procession arrived. The crowd, though disappointed, got a glimpse of the bride of the day and maybe a picture or two.
I was expecting I will celebrate together with them in the church, but I was not in the list. But I'm still trying to enjoy. Inauma lakini nimeitikia tu.
Nikapata kuna listi ambao watu walikuwa wameandikwa na nikaona mchungaji akisema sisi tukae hapa nje tutakuwa tukiwapungia mikono kuambia congratulations.
It's not an African way. Harusi inafanywa na watu 15. Sisi tumezoea kitu kubwa, tunaenda pale, tunaiba, tuna dance, tunaweka vitu mingi pale ndani, lakini sasa itabidi tu tuzoee hii kitu kwa sababu hii ugonjwa imekuja sasa na imetukalia sana.
They had to settle with actively following the proceedings from outside. Technology was also embraced by a select few as the ceremony was broadcasted on social media. A sad reality, even the Ministry of Health acknowledges.
I appreciate that as Africans, we like to attend weddings. In fact, there are people who go around on Saturdays just looking for a wedding to attend. You know, you don't have to know the people, but there is a new normal.
As the Ministry of Health implores Kenyans that coronavirus is real, the Mwananchi can only hope to see the good old days come back.
Tunaomba Mungu atuondolee corona kwa sababu sasa mambo imekuwa ikiharibika. Tungeenda tuseme congratulations kwa rafiki yetu, tumpatie zawadi.
For the new couple, it remains that what God has joined together, let no one separate. But for the wedding guests, what the COVID-19 pandemic has meant, at least for now, is that only 15 can join as 2 become 1. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
We'll be back with more COVID-19 reports. Now, the management of a 10 billion shilling annual budget and tribal politics are behind the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology's latest administrative fight. The Employment and Labour Relations Court yesterday directed the JKUAT Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Bernard Otoki Moirongo, to resume his duties on Monday, and that is pending the determination of a case in court against the Vice Chancellor, Professor Victoria Wambui Ngumi. NTV's Seth Olale also revealed the lucrative managerial package that is at the center of the leadership wrangles at one of the country's iconic higher learning institutions.
Professor Bernard Otoki Moirongo is making a grand return at the helm of the finance department at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, JKUAT, after an 8-month absence. This is after Justice Stephen Radido of the Employment and Labour Relations Court directed Otoki to resume his duties as the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of Finance, pending the determination of a case against Vice Chancellor Professor Victoria Wambui Ngumi, who had denied Otoki access to his office, yet the University Council had reappointed him for a second term of 5 years. In the matter petitioned by activist Okia Umtata, representing the embattled DVC of Finance, Professor Victoria Wambui Ngumi, or anyone working under her authority, were prohibited from advertising the position of the DVC Finance, pending the determination of the case, with the mentions scheduled on 28 September 2020. Professor Bernard Otoki claims tribal politics and management of a 10 billion shillings annual budget at JKUAT are behind the intrigues.
She sent me a letter. It's written by some guys from Kiambu of some association, claiming that that the process should go through a competitive recruitment. Really, anybody who is a professor can be appointed to read or to manage or to be a DVC in any university in Kenya.
Out of JKUAT's 9 to 10 billion shillings annual budget, 5 billion goes to salaries, 2 billion allocated to various departments, with 1 billion going towards loan repayments. So lucrative is the position of a DVC at public universities, with occupants taking home monthly allowances totaling at least 700,000 shillings. Basic monthly salary ranges between 307 to 430,000 shillings, subject to review. Other benefits includes 45 days annual leave, 2 months annual sabbatical leave, official vehicle and driver, and first-class air travel. The leadership wrangles at JKUAT follows that of the University of Nairobi, pitting Professor Stephen Kiama Gitahi, whose appointment as VC was revoked by Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, and acting Deputy Vice Chancellor Finance Professor Isaac Meroka Mbeche. Seth Olale, NTV.
Business was halted for hours in Kakamega town following a standoff between the county askaris and the Kakamega Juakali traders after their stalls were demolished. And the traders were joined by youth who called on the Kakamega governor, Wycliffe Oparanya, to stop the demolitions, which they said were illegal. Zacchaeus Mwasambi witnessed the fracas that saw the governor Oparanya's motorcade blocked and filed this story.
The stalemate that lasted for close to 2 hours left several roads within Kakamega town impassable. The irate youths barricaded the main entrance to the governor's office, demanding for his audience, following a series of demolitions of stalls.
Wameanza kubomoa vibanda. Ikafika wakati akasimamisha. Sasa hivi majuzi tena jana amebomoa tena.
Kama wewe ni mwanaume, jaribu kuja ubomoe zile manyumba za jua kali. Leo utabomoa Malala kwanza ndio ufikie zile manyumba za jua kali. Anajua kwamba kazi yetu itakuwa kupiga kelele tu hivi na yeye anaendelea kubomoa.
Kama amutabadilisha hiyo mwenendo yenu, my friend, mutaondoka. We shall now go talk to the OCBD, kumwambia OCBD kwa sababu watu wa county hawa maaskari wamekuwa ni cartel.
Traders say Oparanya has given them a deaf ear. The situation was, however, brought under control after President Uhuru Kenyatta allegedly made a phone call to Malala, asking him to let Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, who was in the county, give an update to Kenyans on COVID-19.
Request kwamba kwa sababu nchi yote inatazama, tafadhali tusiharibu function ya national government.
The traders have, however, vowed to continue with the demonstrations until their plight is heard by the county government. Zakis Masame, NTV, Kakamega.
You may know him as the Chief Minister or Super Minister, whichever moniker you choose to use. There is no denying that he's a straight talker. NTV's interview with Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i coming up shortly, and true to his nature, he holds nothing back.
Forgive my language, let me just speak very bluntly about this. You know, the level of idiocy with which people discuss these issues sometimes is very annoying.
Find out what idiocy is annoying the CS in the interview later in this bulletin. We take a break.
The aerial guarantee.
Asante sana. Sasa, ni nini kingine ambacho unaweza kumfanyia msichana wetu?
Kila kitu. Hata kufua nguo na aerial mpya.
Basi, tuonyeshe.
Hey, sasa fanya haya madoa yawe sugu zaidi. Sasa tufue kwa kutumia sabuni yako na kutumia aerial mpya. Aerial sasa inapatikana kwenye pakiti mpya. Unaniamini sasa?
Aerial huondoa madoa sugu kwa mosho mmoja. Ijaribu leo uamini.
Ati, naweza taka kwa hii kabambe, nipate 4G smartphone.
Wewe wacha. Yaani mnasema bala ya kujikaza, ninaweza pata smartphone mpya na 20 bob peke yake daily.
Ati, badala hii tochi yangu naweza nunua hiyo 4G smartphone niangaliange vitabu kwa mtandao na ni 20 bob pekee daily.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga star 544 hash kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro inayokuja na screen kubwa ya kutazama video, battery inayodumu, space mingi ya kuweka picha na videos, HD camera na apps zote za Google unazopenda.
Kuma bei ya smartphone hapa.
Smartphone. Si hapo safari komuni yako kabisa.
Happy anniversary.
Baba Nancy, hebu acha nikuulize. Mbona hii mabati kina dad na mom bado inakaa mpya? Na hii nyumba imekuwa hapa for so many years. Na pia umelelewa hapa na sisi tumejenga tu juzi tu.
Wow, imagine hata nilikuwa sija notice.
Rufus, wewe ni fundi wangu wa miaka mingi sana. Haya mabati yatadumu kweli?
Huyu kijana nilimwambia anunue mabati ya Dumuzas. Sijui ini gani alinunua na alitoa wapi.
Hebu angalia vile mabati yako yanakaa. Hata haijamaliza mwaka. Unaona huyu fundi? Hii nyumba yangu alinijengea kitambo. Naangalia hapa bado linang'ara na limedumu.
Usibahatishe mabati. Hakikisha umeangalia alama za kudhibitisha Dumuzas halisi. Chagua Dumuzas, mabati inayodumu kudumu na inapatikana kwa hardware iliyo karibu nawe. Isitoshe, Dumuzas ndio mabati pekee inayokuja na warranty.
Sitaki tena kubahatisha.
Na sote tuko same WhatsApp.
Ni WhatsApp ni nini?
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
There are different types of sickle cell disease, but the most common type in Kenya is sickle cell anemia.
Patikana kuna sickle cell anemia. Kuelezea babake, alikasirika.
mother-in-law akamsukuma sana apate mke mwingine mwenye atampatia watoto wazima.
My pain usually comes like turn after turn. It feels like somebody is ripping off my skin and inserting broken glass into my veins.
There are several things that can trigger off a crisis. Low temperatures, cold weather.
We take time to understand sickle cell anemia and the challenges that sickle cell warriors have to live with.
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete, the stone perimeter wall is complete, and the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV Weekend Edition. Kenya may not be going into any lockdown going forward because COVID-19 is here to stay, and running away from that reality is an exercise in futility. Now, that is according to President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has stated his reason for turning down calls to lock down the country in his last address. The head of state has called on Kenyans and others to pull the weight in returning the glory to the tourism sector. Anita Nkonge reports that this happens as the tourism ministry has had to revoke an appointment one day after gazettement in what appears to be an appointment made without sufficient due diligence.
The beauty that is Kenya. Scenes that have not been enjoyed as much in the recent past. Scenes President Uhuru Kenyatta says Kenyans and international tourists should enjoy. More so during this time as the wildebeest migration continues.
We have also opened up our skies, and flights are coming. We welcome all those who choose to come, all those who choose to obey the protocols that we have put in place, to come and partake with us and enjoy the beauty of this wonderful land.
This would not have been enjoyed had the president locked down the country owing to the COVID-19 pandemic.
If you keep yourself safe, you keep everybody else safe. You can travel, you can move, and that is why when I was told to reinstate a lockdown, I said no. I believe Kenyans can be responsible.
The head of state has also alluded to the unlikely possibility of going into lockdown.
We cannot just lock ourselves down. COVID is with us. We are not going to run away from that.
At least everybody have accepted we have to balance between lives and livelihoods.
The growth that is local tourism has been touted as being a key opportunity for the sector to recover, with investment being put into various institutions. One has, however, been a hot topic of discussion, an investment in human resource. Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala has revoked the appointment of blogger Pauline Njoroge to the board of the Tourism Regulatory Authority, replacing her with journalist Najma Ismail, just a day after Njoroge's appointment was gazetted. In 2016, Pauline posted on her social media her opinion on the controversial SGR construction through the Nairobi National Park. She questioned the revenue value that the park brought to the country, saying that much more could be done with it instead. The post was deleted years ago, but was the basis of outcry over why the government would appoint a person who held such views about the sector to its regulatory body.
It was a shocker to me. I thought it was a joke on social media. Someone shared with me that news because Nairobi National Park is a very unique park in the entire world. And we are making a mistake, really, of looking at it from a profitability perspective.
CS Balala, in his revocation announcement, said the government did not want to be associated with such people and thinking. He, however, admitted that he and his team did not know of her past posts and thanked online users for bringing it to his attention. Therein lies some observations such as questions over how thorough the government's background checks on people it is appointing to leadership positions are. Another observation is that many have to be cautious of what they share on their online platforms, as they may work against them when they're looking for work. They say the internet never forgets, and for Pauline Njoroge, this theory has proven true. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
What do you make of Pauline Njoroge's appointment to the Tourism Regulatory Authority, then the revocation of her appointment, and then her replacement with Najma Ismail? Well, the hashtag, if I forgot to tell you tonight, is Matiangi Speaks. The handle is at NTV Kenya. Plenty to talk about tonight. Now, ODM party leader Raila Odinga remains non-committal about running for the presidency in 2022, even as more people call for his candidature. The former Prime Minister says his key role now, just as President Uhuru Kenyatta's, is to unite the country through the Building Bridges initiative, as well as put in place mechanisms that will oversee a free and fair electoral system. NTV's senior political affairs reporter Kennedy Murang'a with the details of mixed signals on the possibility of Raila for president in 2022.
There is a renewed push to have ODM leader Raila Odinga on the ballot in 2022. This time round, coming from not only his political support base, but also from a group of influential politicians from Mount Kenya who believe he is the best placed to take over from President Uhuru Kenyatta, even if it is just for one term. His elder brother, Burrows Odinga, recently declared categorically that Raila will be on the ballot for his 6th stab at the presidency.
We are now moving to the next stage, which is almost the last one before we go to the general election in 2022. And this is the stage we are now making strategies for winning the election. We have won elections 3 times, but every time we win the election, we are robbed of that victory.
We are looking for power, and in 2022 we are going to power. And the route we are going to use to power is through President Uhuru Kenyatta.
There is something which we were missing, and that's something which we were missing is called system. Some people are saying system is not important, but system is very important. And now we are with Uhuru Kenyatta, who is holding the system.
NTV has learned that the subject has been on the table for some time now. A week ago, Odinga, alongside men close to him and others close to President Kenyatta, met for what was described as just lunch but laden with political statements.
I don't know what is wrong in people meeting, basically informally, in a residence of another person. Since that time, we have been also to other people's places. Sometimes I may even invite people to come and visit me here. Or I may go into another friend's home. Sometimes it becomes boring to stay here.
Odinga has been guarded on whether he will vie for the top seat in 2022.
We have said we don't want to talk about 2022, period.
However, his 2-time running mate and Wiper party leader Kalonzo Musyoka was quoted in last week's Sunday Nation, claiming he and Odinga have a pact that will see Raila ditch his ambitions.
I don't want to mix issues. This matter is of importance. I gave, in fact, at the request of the Nation media, I gave an exclusive interview. I stand by what I said in that interview, and I do not need to revisit that matter.
I will discuss this matter with Kalonzo. So I really don't want to make this a major issue.
He's actually gone ahead to say that he stands by what he said.
I'm saying I don't want to make this a major issue. It's not really a media issue, okay? So I was not there when he spoke. So if he needs me, he will speak to me.
A series of meetings have been planned to sell the former Prime Minister in Mount Kenya, with politicians close to President Kenyatta pulling their weight to endear him to their people. Kennedy Murang'a, NTV.
Whether the disagreement between Deputy President William Ruto and Baringo Senator Gideon Moi is a supremacy battle is neither here nor there, but their differences are widening the political rift in the valley. Some leaders have accused Gideon Moi of using his new partnership with the Jubilee government to edge out Ruto and his allies from the government.
The Kenya African National Union, the oldest party in the country, has received a new lease of life through its post-poll cooperation deal, where it became the latest foster child in the Jubilee administration. This has further strained the relationship between the deputy partner in the House of Jubilee and the KANU chairman Gideon Moi. Cherangani MP Joshua Kutuni is among those accusing Moi of taking advantage of the deal to settle scores with Ruto at the expense of the Kalenjin community.
Huwezi kuchukua hiyo nafasi kuadhibu wale watu ambao ama kupatia wasiwasi na kupatia vitisho wale maafisa wa serikali ambao labda waliandikwa na Ruto ama walionekana walikuwa karibu na Ruto. Hiyo sisi hatuwezi kubali. Zungumza na jamii. Usilete mzozo ndani ya jamii.
The 2022 presidential race, where both Ruto and Moi have interests, is a key point of conflict.
Itakuwa ni kati ya Ruto na Raila Odinga. Wale wowote ambao wanajaribu bahati yao watakuwa ni wakusindikisha wao.
So far, Gideon Moi has benefited big from the deal, including having his close ally West Pokot Senator Samuel Pogisio appointed as the majority leader in the Senate. These in addition to other government appointments and some of his KANU legislators getting committee leadership slots in parliament. As far as William Ruto, whose allies have been stripped of rank and power, he is still the deputy in the Jubilee government as far as the constitution is concerned. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Is a referendum the panacea for what plagues Kenya? Get CS Fred Matiangi's take on the root of Kenya's ills in a bit.
We can have as many rules as we want. We can write 10 constitutions if we want. But the truth of the matter is that
the truth of the matter is suspense. Well, wait after this break. His interview coming up shortly.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
You in the pollution? Yes, you. Dry throat? Strepsils. Gal in the smoke with a raspy voice? Strepsils. Hello, in the downpour with a scratchy throat? Take Strepsils. Get soothing relief for any throat irritation. Strepsils with its medicinal ingredients will heal the harm down to your throat from external factors. Strepsils. Strepsils for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Ndovu flowers are fortified with vitamins and minerals to provide wholesome goodness for the whole family. Ndovu all-purpose flour makes the most delicious chapatis, mandazis and all other pastries. Ndovu is readily available at your nearest shop. Ndovu Tosha.
NTV Sport in association with DSTV.
And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
Let's make a deal. Now, we've saved the very last because NTV's news is the best, but we've saved the very best for last, and that is the interview with the Interior CS Fred Matiang'i. So we're going to get into the sports so we can get into the interview. Now, for the sports news, marathon world record holder Eliud Kipchoge is synonymous with flying Kenya's flag high on the international scene. And the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife is hoping to tap into Kipchoge's global star status to showcase the country's beauty. Ruth Sarmwe in the Masai Mara with more.
Sports and tourism, two industries that have been particularly hard hit by effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Little wonder then that the two sectors have merged, with marathon world record holder Eliud Kipchoge at the fore to promote Kenya as a preferred tourist destination.
By selling Kenya abroad and even telling all the citizens actually to visit Mara, to visit all the conservancies around in order to promote tourism.
Kipchoge, who was received by Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala and Narok County Governor Samuel Tunai, amongst others, also had a virtual meet with President Uhuru. The Kenya Tourism Board is expecting to sign the Marathon King, who was accompanied by his wife and children as a Magical Kenya ambassador.
We are working with the Ministry of Sports to make sure that Kenya becomes a destination for sports tourism, because our iconic marathoners are all based in Kenya.
Magical Kenya has previously tapped into golf and is the title sponsor of the prestigious Kenya Open tournament. The move is an attempt by the ministry to revamp the sector while following in the footsteps of major governments across the world. Sports tourism is one of the fastest growing sectors of the global travel industry, equating to 60.7 trillion shillings annually, according to the United Nations World Tourism Organization. Prior to COVID-19, this weekend would ideally have seen the marathon world record holder attempt a title defense at the Tokyo Olympics. With the games pushed to 2021, Kipchoge continues to showcase the country's talent and beauty on and off the course. Ruth Sarmoi, NTV.
Like leadership, like rowdy fans in scenes reminiscent of past Gor Mahia matches, the club's elections were marred by chaos, with Francis Wasuna retaining his post as Gor Mahia vice chairman. Francis Wasuna beat outgoing treasurer Sally Bolo by 183 votes in the virtual exercise, but it did not end there. Bolo stormed the tallying center at a local sports club with claims of rigging. The former treasurer then went on a tribal and a vulgar rant before being violently thrown out of the center. Prior to the exercise, Ambrose Rasher and Sam Ochola had been declared chairman and secretary general respectively by the club's electoral board after running unopposed. Dolphina Odhiambo clinched the treasurer position with 286 votes to dismiss Crispin Okoth, who garnered 103. The newly elected officials will serve for a period of 4 years. Barcelona will look to salvage a disappointing season when they host Napoli in the next 20 minutes, with both teams evenly poised at 1-1 ahead of their Champions League last 16 second-leg clash. The Catalans' last success in the competition came back in 2015, and they face a Napoli side that has never been past this stage of the Champions League. The Italian club did win the Coppa Italia, but finished a disappointing 7th in Serie A, and so head to Catalonia with little to lose and everything to gain. In the other game, Chelsea looked to overturn a fast leg 3-0 deficit against Bayern Munich. It's been a tough few days for Frank Lampard's side, who lost in the FA Cup final to Arsenal barely a week ago. Things don't look to get better, though, with a lengthy injury and suspension list making the task almost insurmountable. Mercedes driver Valtteri Bottas was able to confine last week's bad luck performance at Silverstone to history to take pole ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton for the 70th anniversary Grand Prix at the same venue. Bottas was less than a tenth of a second ahead of Hamilton, pointing to the stiff competition the teammates are giving each other. The surprise of the day came from Racing Point's Nico Hülkenberg, who is third on the grid ahead of Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Sunday's race is the second of Silverstone's doubleheader from the reduced 2020 season.
For a while, don't ask Cyril Abiteboul what he thinks of that particular qualifying. Ask him what he thinks of Daniel Ricciardo's efforts. And a 67th front row lockout then for Mercedes-Benz, which extends their record.
NTV Sport in association with DSTV.
And DSTV gives you the best seat in the house. It's the thrilling rush to the UEFA Champions League final. Get connected to DSTV to experience every heart-stopping moment.
Just who between Deputy President William Ruto and the Cabinet Secretary charged with the coordination of national government is the President's right-hand man. Nation Media Group's editorial director, Mutuma Matthew, takes Chief Minister Fred Matiang'i to task on the other side of this break.
The power is not with me.
Yes.
I'm not the beginning. I'm not the alpha and omega. It's
Yes.
the others around.
Yes.
The deputy president is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. What is my relationship with Governor Anyang' Nyong'o? He's the governor of Kisumu County.
What do you make of what you've already heard from the Interior CS Fred Matiang'i and what is coming up next immediately after this break? The hashtag is Matiang'i Speaks. The handle is at NTV Kenya.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. Panadol Extra, now with new Optizorb technology to fight multiple tough pains with 3 times more pain-relieving medicine in the first 30 minutes when you need it most. Seeing them support themselves makes any pain worth it.
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Breaking news from Molfix. Let's see what they're developing right now.
Molfix pants with anatomic fit technology. New Molfix pants, an invention from babies for babies.
You should also try Molfix.
Pata smartphone mpya kuanzia 20 bob daily pekee ukilipa mdogo mdogo. Weka down payment ya 1000. Lipa kuanzia 20 bob daily kwa miezi 9. Piga star 544 hash kuona kama unafaulu kupata 4G Neon Ray Pro. Si hapo Safaricom ni yako kabisa.
The hour is finally upon us. It's time now to sit down with the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i. The hashtag, as I said, is Matiang'i Speaks, and I will be taking a look at your feedback. Here he is.
You rarely smile in public. Personally, when I speak to you, I know you're a guy with a sense of humor and you relax and you smile. But in public, you never do. Is it the gravity of the office? Is it the stress? Or is it just the way the Lord constructed you?
No. You know, what's happening is that, you know, when you are in... I think it's just that the public sees only one face of your life. The public doesn't live with you.
Yeah.
You know, every day. They don't go with you to the market. They don't go with you to church. They don't go with you everywhere. Yeah. The bulk of the people who are with you all the time, your family, and your family here is used largely to mean, you know, your social family, your church family, or your worship family, or your community family, and so on and so forth. Many people actually get very surprised when they hear that kind of comment. You know, I rarely smile and so on. But you know, it's because those who comment that way are people who have seen me in informal circumstances.
Yes.
And they have never seen me in informal circumstances, or they have never seen me in other circumstances other than the podium.
I can see you smiling now, actually.
Yeah.
All right, another personal question, and it is that the 2 qualities which have defined your service at ICT, at education, and now are 1, discipline, and 2, a desire for order. You know, I mean, you know, when you and the professor are going around opening containers in the morning and all that, there is always that purposive, intentional, disciplined, and orderly approach, which is not very common in the way we associate public officials. Where does it come from?
There are certain choices you make in life, and some of them you make them very early in life. That is why, you know, upbringing and where you grew up and the way generally the value system within which you have been brought up ends up shaping, your reality and shaping the way in which you see things. I was raised up in an environment where 2 and 2 is 4. It can't be any other thing. My late father taught us that, always stand by and stick with the truth, even if you are wrong and even if you are the only one on that position. And live that way. That's a choice. And then I think as we grew up, some of us, and let me say myself, I made that choice. It has worked for me. If I would like to do something, I do it with all my heart. If I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. If I believe this is the right thing to do, I stick with it, even if I'm the only one in that position. And life, actually, in my view, people might think it's very difficult that way, but I find it exciting and easy. I mean, these are the goals you want to pursue in life. You stay on that path, and you get the work done. You don't live a life where you're giving excuses every day about things, even when it's straightforward. This is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even if I left public office today, I would regret nothing.
Waziri, when you look around, when you cast your mind's eye on our society, on the challenges we have, on the potential that we have, what do you see?
The interesting thing about our country is how incredibly blessed we are as a nation. The resources in our midst and the wonderful people that God has created and put in this country. The pain you feel in most cases actually is that, truth be told, in some cases, we the leaders are the ones who let the people down. Sometimes you keep asking yourself the question, are we actually going to wake up one morning and outsource this country to some consultants who can run it, especially if they run it well without wasting resources and so on, because we will all live like kings and we'll be happy, and we'll be fine. I mean, because there's enough to keep us all happy, there's enough to to feed the children that God has given us, there's enough to do the things that we need to do to survive. But it's, if you ask me, when I cast my mind aside to look at the reality, that is what bothers me as a leader. In more ways than one, you see cases where, people have actually been given responsibilities and decided to do different things with it. Well, you can religiously say, it's human and stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is this. That's where it is. I see people, and I can't really say this even in government. I see people the president has trusted and given them responsibilities, trusted them and told them, hey, you do this thing. And then, they basically just do the exact opposite of what the president has asked them to do. And then you keep asking yourself the question, why? Why do we live like that?
When people depart from the instructions that they've been given, in your experience, is there always accountability?
To be honest with you, Mutuma, let's face it. I mean, the public service in the country is a humongous machine with hundreds and thousands of people who do their jobs. Your leader, your manager cannot be everywhere all the time. We can have as many rules as we want. We can write 10 constitutions if we want. You made the point yourself before. You can write 20 constitutions if you want. You can write as many rules as you want. Yes, we need the rules. I'm not saying we don't need them. I'm not saying we don't need the constitution. We do. But, that in itself is not going to give you what you desire, because you are not God. You are not going to be everywhere. It's dependent upon, sometimes the difference that is made in the success of one society and not the other, that difference is made by the collective consciousness of the society. People decide, I am a part of the whole. I am not the whole. So if I am a part of the whole, let me play my role. B plays their role, C plays their role, and then collectively we will have a great whole. And where people come to that collective consciousness, they do better than cases where people think, I can play games and move around. Accountability, these things are usually easier said than done. How many cases, how many people are you going to take to court? How many people are you going to fire, sack and appraise? Your time is not supposed to be spent on that. You don't have a lesser responsibility than the president has for the country. He is our president, yes, but the truth of the matter is that as citizens of the country, we have a responsibility also to do our bit.
As a scholar and as a public servant, what is your understanding of democracy?
In my view, it's very simple. It's to be conscious and to practice the consciousness about the others. Because you see, you then wake up in the morning knowing, I have an idea, but that's not the only idea. Mutuma also has an idea. If I'm going to make a decision that affects all of us, let me find out what Mutuma thinks. That's where it begins. To be conscious of the other, you know, and then to practice that knowledge of the other people around. If I'm going to share resources, the people who may have an emotional relationship with me, or the people who are related with me, are not the only ones. There are others, you know, as it were. I may have an idea, I may have an opinion, I may be a smart person, but I'm not the only one. The other smart people around, they also have ideas. So that because everything else springs from there. But the other doesn't matter.
But the fundamental issue is the recognition that the power remains with the people.
That is it.
And that government exercises that delegated power.
The power does not reside with me, because you see, when you talk about the power resides with the people, it means you have recognized the other.
Yes.
The power is not with me.
Yes.
I'm not the beginning. I'm not the alpha and omega. It's
Yes.
the others around.
Yes.
So I must then derive power from the collective whole. If I'm going to act on behalf of the whole, let me not usurp their views and their powers and act as though I'm actually representing them, as it were. So that, you know, collectivity then begins to make sense. That is why then power is derived from the people, whichever way you look at it. It begins and ends with that consciousness, the practice and recognition of the other.
With the social contract being that we are giving it to you so that you can act in our interest and on our behalf. Now, which leads to my next question, is that when you look at our democracy today, would you say that the social contract is healthy, that the government and all those who are in government exist to serve the people at all time?
By and large in Kenya, yes, those in leadership exist to serve the interest of the masses. Sometimes the problem is the value system is not shared across the board. We don't pick leaders from one pool or one unadulterated pool. Our leaders are not socialized in one environment, and then our social and moral fabric is not entrenched. So over a period of time, you may find a set of leaders who are really focused on supporting and working with the people and acting in the best interest of the people. But inherent in that, because we have not espoused a very deep and strong value system, you will also still find people who basically, to be even more blunt, betray that social contract, as it were.
So what happens when the social contract is violated and doesn't exist? And therefore you have a system where the people who are in authority exist to serve their own interests and not the interests of the people. Does that create revolutionary conditions?
Well, it depends. It depends. It depends on whether, if you look at a case where those in power maybe are just individuals, not a system. There are areas or the environments where the betrayal or the negation of the social contracts is a systemic decision. It's rampant. I mean, it's a decision that people have made, that this is how we are going to live. We don't care what those ones think. Then it pits the people versus those who are in power. But in cases where you can see, by and large, 70, 80%, or maybe 60, 65%, there's deliberate effort to pay attention to those on whose behalf power is being exercised. The 30 or the 35% vulgarization of the contract calls for reform, not revolution.
But you don't think with the rampant corruption that we see and with the certain levels of impunity that are in our society, that we are getting there? We are getting to a place where this criminality is becoming systemic?
We have challenges. I'll be the last one to lie here and pretend that we don't have challenges. We do have challenges. I mean, there are cases where you feel sometimes, or you also get very frustrated about certain things. But I don't think the situation is as bleak as you are portraying it. I mean, honestly, this is not a society or an environment where nothing happens. I can drive you around this country and you'll be amazed at the things that are happening. In the span of 8 years, this administration has doubled electricity connectivity in the country. I mean, you cannot say that nothing is happening. It's all struggling.
Nothing is happening. But where there is a serious and endemic corruption.
I will not deny that there's corruption in the country. There is corruption in the country. And I'll be the last person to try to, why lie? There are certain things which you feel. I mean, I'm now chairing the Cabinet Committee on projects, and I can see clearly cases where there are projects we are revising right now ourselves as a cabinet committee, because clearly you can see that the way they were started and so on, the intention was to loot public resources and stuff like that, and we are revising them. So those are evidences and clear cases of corruption. So you can't deny that it does not exist. It exists, but it's not. I don't think it's as you are describing it. It's not endemic. This is not a basket society. I mean, honestly speaking, this is a great country.
As a government, where do you see this country in 50 years?
Unless we make fundamental mistakes. I have to underline that fundamental mistakes in our political practice and in the choices we make in upcoming electoral processes. Unless we make fundamental mistakes, if we stayed on this trajectory, in 50 years we will have passed, will be a very strong middle-income country, almost becoming developed. Because if we stayed on this trajectory and exploited all the resources available in this country, implemented the policy frameworks that have been set by President Kenyatta in this administration, and stayed on this path of reform and economic development, in 50 years, we will be the Singapore of Africa.
Do you think we have made, we are prepared to take care of intervening circumstances such as climate shock, such as the destabilizing geopolitics of the region?
You know, we have sufficient preparedness, and you know, preparedness is not a one-off affair. It's not an event. It's an institutional issue. It's a progression. You move from one end to another. So you talk about levels of preparedness. You move from one level to another level as you go along. That's why I'm talking about staying on this trajectory. Living in the geopolitical environment we live right now, with the kind of challenges we deal with every day, I mean, we should thank God we've done very well, and we continue to do very well. As I said, as long as we do not depart from this path where we are right now, challenges or no challenges, we are headed for greatness as a country.
Do you agree with him? In the next 50 years, Kenya will be the Singapore of Africa. The hashtag is Matiangi Speaks. The second part of that interview coming up. The handle, as I said, is at NTV Kenya already. Plenty of responses. We have Samuels who says, ask him why we can't have Sports Pesa but have Betika. Also ask him about this thing, I think he means Raraka land, we keep hearing people talk about. That will be asked actually in part 2. And then we have Willie Kipanyeno who says, so can he be able to tell us the truth about Raraka land saga? We have Calvo who says, do you know that the youth are suffering due to the closure of the gaming industry where most are employed? It looks like gaming is a big concern online. And then we have Nguru Wamaina who says, I'm certain this is the president Kenya needs. Hashtag Matiangi Speaks. And Chemutai Purity says, President Kenyatta's Mr. Fix-It. Dr. Fred Matiang'i has Tom Mboya's domineering characteristics, To's delivery magic, and a bit of Martha Karua's fearlessness. Again, she says Matiang'i for president. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Share your thoughts. Hashtag Matiangi Speaks. We take a break. We come back with part 2.
Various institutions have reported over 800 million units of unclaimed shares among other assets. To find out if you are an owner or beneficiary, dial *361# or visit www.ufaa.go.ke.
From far with you. I even gifted you a magnificent house. Rosa, it's the thought that counts. Please help me.
When it comes to fever, you need to be both. Panadol Baby and Infant starts to work on fever in 15 minutes and is gentle on the tummy. Panadol Baby and Infant, tough on fever, gentle on your child.
How to improve toddler behavior. Show your love. Make sure your displays of affection for your child outnumber any consequences or punishment. Prioritize rules rather than overloading your child with rules from the onset. Prioritize those geared towards safety first.
Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Bye diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
There are different types of sickle cell disease, but the most common type in Kenya is sickle cell anemia.
Patikana kuna sickle cell anemia. Kuelezea babake, alikasirika. Mother-in-law akamsukuma sana, apate mke mwingine mwenye atampatia watoto wazima.
My pain usually comes like turn after turn. It feels like somebody is ripping off my skin and inserting broken glass into my veins.
There are several things that can trigger off a crisis. Low temperatures, cold weather.
We take time to understand sickle cell anemia and the challenges that sickle cell warriors have to live with.
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete, the stone perimeter wall is complete, and the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Majab, my friend, as you wait for the call, my friend, isn't it just perturbing how sure you are that the call is going to be picked? Majab, the recipient is probably held up. In our days, we...
To get Baba Otis Maajabu by Flaco, dial star 811 star 936 hash. Skiza Non-Nation.
Thank you for staying with us on NTV Weekend Edition. I was just going through your comments on the hashtag Matiangi Speaks. The handle is at NTV Kenya. We had intended to air a special feature by Oko Kusa on RIP to the death industry on account of COVID-19. We will be airing that special feature on Monday, and we will be playing you that particular promo before the end of this news bulletin. But without further ado, here is part 2 of Fred Matiang'i Speaks.
Now let's talk for a few minutes about COVID. Where are we?
At the moment, the rate of infection is rising, but I thank God that at 1.7% fatality rate is not that high. It's one of the lowest around the world, but you see, let's not delude ourselves. My colleague, the Minister for Health, has warned us even today that, you know, unless we are going to be serious about the containment measures and unless we are going to be focused on what we are doing, we could slide. As it was. So it's a very delicate position we find ourselves in, and my view is that you know, everyone should do double what we you know, have been doing.
Is there any possibility of another lockdown in your
not that I know of, because you see, these decisions are made on the basis of the way the president has decided to manage the COVID situation in the country is that the president has, you know, made the wise decision, I believe, of being informed by science, by information. We do analysis, we listen to the experts, and then we take a decision based on that. So as we go along, you know, we'll keep reviewing these things week by week, and then our decision will be made depending on how our situation looks as we go along.
Okay, but testing is a critical part of managing them.
Yes, it is.
What we are doing now is targeted testing. Is there likelihood of mass testing? Because, you know, once people know that they're infected, then they can be able to take care of others.
You see, by the way, there's no country around the world that has done mass testing. You know, Mutuma, it's a damn expensive affair. We also have to use the resources in a sensible manner as we are advised as it were. Yes, we can test 47 or 50 million Kenyans, but the question is, you know, resources aside, infrastructure resources aside, and budget issues aside, and so on and so forth, we, you know, our experts are asking us, is that the sensible way of managing the spread of the disease? The sensible way is what we are doing, or what is now being seen as targeted testing, which we are doing at the moment. That is what you know.
Where you have testing on demand, that anyone who needs a test has access to it. Both
that and also, you know, where contact tracing is done, like in Nairobi, the hotspots and so on, where experts, after, you know, analysis and scanning the environment, feel we should test segments of the population in particular areas, such as they are doing. We are just fine in doing what we are doing. And actually, I mean, whenever I say so myself, I honestly think that the way in which the government has managed COVID is fairly responsible.
When I look around the region, different countries have different approaches to this.
I don't know too much. You know, the best way I would like to deal with this as a public official is this: let everyone mind their country, mind your house.
I'm just proceeding from a comment that was made by President Kagame in an interview with the East African, that the situation would have been much better if we look at it from a regional perspective.
You know, the truth of the matter is President Kagame is right. The situation would have been different if we managed it from a regional point of view. Now we don't have that opportunity, and we don't have that. That is not available to us. So, are we going to stop doing what we have to do in our country? Let's do what we have to do in our country. I mean, that is the ideal. We would have been happier if it happened in that kind of manner. But it didn't. Let us focus on what we can do. Even when we face those challenges on our borders and so on, that's fine. Let's do the best we can do.
Is the government satisfied about the efficiency with which the resources that have been provided for the fight against COVID have been applied?
You know, I have no evidence of dissatisfaction from the quarters and agencies that are dealing with this matter. Quite frankly, I mean, we have resources that were given to us that are in our budget. We have applied the resources that came from development partners. They are being applied. And by the way, you know, we began this one COVID in March this year. We have been on it for 5 months as we go along. The resources that have come from development partners, from the private sector, and so on and so forth. Really, why is it that we cannot fight the disease and get done with it and look at the books later on? You know, there's a practice we have in this country where sometimes we mix things too much. You know, the war against COVID is going on. Some debate continues there on resources and other things on that side. Honestly.
Okay. You think the police did a good job in enforcing the lockdowns and participating
in the circumstances? In the circumstances, by the way, the police did an excellent job. Regardless of what, you know, I've seen the detractors or critics of the police raising so many issues, including human rights organizations with whom I have met, by the way. And we've had long discussions about them. There are certain things that happened that I don't condone, that I will not support. But I have to be very honest about this matter. But sometimes when people look at these things, they exaggerate them. I mean, IPOA has got about 70 complaints, just about 70 cases or complaints that were filed with IPOA. Our internal affairs unit has got less than 100 cases that were filed with them. And IPOA is investigating some of these 70 cases that were filed with them in relation to COVID. The operation has been going on for the last 5 months. That is roughly about 11 or 12 cases or so per month. Really, what are we talking about? Second, the police officers are not angels from heaven. They're human beings who live in our midst. They will make mistakes. That's why we have service standing orders. To be sure that, you know, when an individual police officer acts outside of their powers and outside of the law, they are brought to account and they are called to responsibility. What I find unacceptable, and I have to be very frank about this, I take responsibility. I am the country's Minister for Interior and Coordination of National Government. It is not fair, it's not accurate, some of the things that are said about the police officers.
Let's talk about your function, your role, coordinating the implementation of government programs. I think that was Executive Order number 1 of 2019. What has been the experience?
Wonderful. The last 1.5 years, sitting and chairing the committee of my colleagues in cabinet has been nothing but an amazing experience. Quite frankly, at a personal level, I have almost rediscovered the country. It's been a big lesson in problem solving, in ensuring that inter-ministerial collaboration actually means everything. I can today, if I were to write a book on public service, I would just say nothing beats interdepartmental collaboration and interministerial collaboration. Problems that were looking so difficult yesterday are solved very easily when people sit around the table and the people express their fears, their concerns, their sectional or departmental interest, and then consensus is built very easily for the good of the country. It makes a big, big difference.
Does that coordination facilitate more efficient application of resources?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Tremendously, I can tell you. I mean, look, there are about 4 things that affect public sector projects in the country. Number one is resources. Sometimes fewer resources are available for projects than we think. When we start projects, sometimes we start projects with the hope that we have sufficient resources to complete them. Then midway we discover that we have certain financial challenges. To navigate those challenges and maybe lengthen the time of the project or reduce the size of the project and so on so that you can complete it, is something that we now are able to discuss and figure out. The second challenge is conflict, broadly defined. Conflict could be regulatory conflict. There are projects where NEMA has not given an approval, or Kenya Forestry Service is not happy with the decision that was taken, or KWS is not interested and feels left out, or the security sector is not consulted and so on. So you can write letters to each other for years on end while the project is stalled and nothing is happening. So conflict of various kinds. Some of it is actually legal. We have so much money held in projects because of court cases and stuff like that. So mediating these conflicts and sitting down to figure out what needs to be done, is critical.
But in exercising that responsibility, does it create a perception that this is probably the job that should have gone to the deputy president? What is your relationship with the deputy president?
I don't know. I don't know about any perceptions. And the deputy president is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya.
Okay, so there's no conflict. There's no conflict of roles.
Deputy president is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. What is my relationship with Governor Anyang' Nyong'o? He's the governor of Kisumu County. What is the relationship with Wycliffe Oparanya between me and him? He's the governor of Kakamega County.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, let's talk about security, Waziri. Maybe it's an easier topic. Terror attacks have gone down significantly since Dusit, I think. We haven't had a serious one away from the border areas. What is the reason? Did we get better at fighting Al-Shabaab?
The president formed a multi-agents team. We are now having all security sector institutions working together seamlessly and sharing information seamlessly. We have built a capability that could only have been a dream in 2013, as it were. Why? Because the commander-in-chief has risen up to the challenge of playing his role effectively, ensuring that securing the people of Kenya is his foremost responsibility, and he has done a spectacular job of it.
Complaints about the disappearance of youth, especially at the coast and some parts of northeastern, with then some NGOs saying that it's the government which is disappearing suspects. Is there substance to?
When people raise issues like those, I would like them to give me evidence. Forgive my language, let me just speak very bluntly about this. The level of idiocy with which people discuss these issues sometimes is very annoying. Now, when people tell you, if someone comes and says, Fred has disappeared today, it is the police who are responsible, then they don't tell you the nexus between Fred and the police. What is that? You see, some of this is stereotypical. It's a carryover from some mentality. I don't know where it came from. Some people another day collected some what they purported to be human bones from some forest and said, these are people who may have been killed here, and it is the police who killed them. So how do you conclude? I mean, how do you get there? Let me ask you, in a sensible manner, how do you get there?
Is there any possibility that gambling in some form will make a comeback?
Not that I know of, and then I guess by the even as I speak to you today, during this financial year, those betting lenses have to be renewed every financial year. We have not renewed any betting lenses this year because the Betting Licensing and Control Board has not agreed with the Ministry of Health on the protocols that betting companies will have to follow in operating their betting businesses. So I am not aware of any betting company that is in business to start with. Secondly, our resolve to deal with what I call the gambling menace, is decisive. And I don't know how I can say it. We are not going back on this, Mutuma. This thing has hurt this country and almost destroyed our youth. I'm not going to say that we will close out that aspect of our life forever, but if ever it has to happen, it has to happen in a regulated environment which respects the interests and especially development interests of this country.
Now, there was a crackdown on drugs in the coast sometimes back. I forget when it was. I think, was it the last year or the year before?
Last year. We started the campaign last year.
Yeah.
If you look at the drug situation in the coastal part of our country before we began the crackdown and today, even if you look at the reports we get on the movement of drugs and so on, ask anybody, even fair organizations including Interpol, people will tell you that there has not only been a drastic reduction, a good number of those thugs have moved out of our territory because of the pressures that we put, overt and covert. Overt pressures like arresting people and so on. I have a list of institutions that I am about to announce that under the law, especially under the anti-terrorism law and under the money laundering regime, I'm supposed to gazette or blacklist. I will do so in about a week or 2 weeks' time. A number of businesses, as a result of investigations that we conducted, in Mombasa and the work that has been going on. We have, quite frankly, even if I say so myself, we made incredible progress in that area. And if we stay on this path, I have no reason to believe we can't. We will do much better. The laxity that existed before is not there. Fortunately, now we have the Coast Guard, which we are building, which is helping us. We are working with the Ministry of Transport to even register the private jetties, which were used in the past as routes for moving in drugs and stuff like that. Our surveillance system has got much better, incredibly better than it ever was before. Where we have weaknesses or challenges, like in the judiciary, we are having discussions quietly, and I don't want to comment about that at this stage. We're having discussions, and I believe that the JSC has shown responsibility, that it's something they will deal with.
The Americans had hinted after the Akashas that they were interested in more of our officials. Has there ever been any movement in that?
I can't comment on ongoing security decisions and work. It's not right. I cannot make sideline comments on that. That's an ongoing work. Actions are going on right now, so I can't comment about that.
Okay. Huduma number.
Yes.
When is it coming? When is the conclusion of that project?
The registration was the first step. Then the synchronization of the data sets. Then we give you that one number. When we make sure that every person has got a file that is complete, that your NRB records are complete, your NHIV records are there, your PIN records are there, and everything. Then we give you the number. And then that exercise is what is going on, and we are at the tail end of it. And at the end of it, everybody will get an Huduma number. That will give you an Huduma card. With the Huduma card, you don't need an ID card, by the way.
Very many people have lost jobs. Very many businesses are in trouble. What is the sense in government?
Even with the challenges that we have faced recently, certain aspects of our economy are actually rebounding and coming back. The last time I spoke to my colleagues, in the Ministry of Agriculture, especially on the horticultural sector, our export of flowers and vegetables and so on, they were saying the numbers are actually coming back almost to near where we were before COVID, as it were. And that means, of course, that those who are employed in those sectors will get their jobs. In the manufacturing sector, some of our manufacturers have been hard hit. First by, when the airspace was closed, factories closed, and everybody closed everywhere on earth. Movement even of raw materials was a problem, and so on. So there was a slowdown, as it were. We were dependent on AGOA. We could not move some of our clothes to the US and stuff like that. But that too is coming back. And the resilience that we have seen in the manufacturing sector, some of our people turning to making PPEs locally, as a way of survival. And there are some manufacturers in this country who have done this country great. I mean, there are people who retained their employees even at 50%, of their salaries, just because they did not want, to put people out of employment. They decided they will share the losses, as it were. Everyone has taken a hit. Mutuma, I am on a pay cut. Even me, as a cabinet minister, I am on a pay cut. The president is on a pay cut. It's a crisis we face that we are dealing with. But we do not think that we are going to collapse and completely melt in these circumstances. If, for example, manufacturers remain resilient, adapt to the environment in which we find ourselves, we will rise again.
What does your heart desire? What do you think is in the future?
I don't know. The future, we leave it to God.
Okay, but what is your plan? Because at the conclusion,
my plan is to do what I do and do it well. That's all. I tell people all the time, Mutuma, what makes the difference between people who succeed in the things they do and those who don't, including students in school, is the level of focus. Focus, focusing on. We tell our kids, when you go to school, please go sit on a desk, listen to the teacher, and study hard and pass your exam. That's what we tell them. And we also, the same thing to public officials. When you have been given a task to do, focus on that task. Sit there if you have been told to sit there, focus on that task and ensure that it's done. At the moment, and I said this even when I was at the Ministry of Education, when people were asking me, what do I want to do? I said, I am the President's Program Officer. The President, this is a presidential constitution, it's a presidential government. The President went to the people of Kenya, entered into a contract with them, they elected him. Then he came and put people together to help him achieve his objective and fulfill his promises with the people of Kenya. And we are program officers, so the President hired us as program officers. I am the President's foremost program officer now, implementing the President's program. That's my assignment right now.
You don't feel that after all that time, that you'll be looking forward to something else?
The future belongs to God. Let's leave it to God.
That's a good perspective. Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Thank you very much, Waziri.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thanks
for the opportunity.
Well, here are your thoughts on that interview. We have Kiki Ndungu who says, ask him how come people are being killed and disappearing without a trace under his leadership as the CS. For example, the disappearance of Dafton Mwitiki that he never spoke about. I think that question was posed and he asked for evidence. We have Patrick Kipto who says, ask Matiangi why has he in the past failed to obey court orders. That's one to take note of. We have Nahashan Gisheha who says the problem we have is hypocrisy. How can he say that the problem is not that bad, yet day in and day out something is stolen? He was a good guy till he let himself get twisted right and left. Puppet, he says. We have J. Mo Kiongozi who says 50 years in 50 years, could Kenya be Singapore of Africa? He says that is not an achievement. Singapore is our age mate. We have Nyakush who says, who ordered controversial Kariobangi demolition amid COVID-19 spikes and why wouldn't it wait? All right, that's another one I think might be elaborated on. We have Noah Magara who says, ask him what happened with Huduma number. I think that was responded to. And Alan Kosgei says the CS to tell us clearly what his next big role is after the end of his term in 2022. Such a great leader fighting impunity. He says, Viva, I love your leadership, but first fight against those evicting the less fortunate in Nairobi. All right, the hashtag does not expire. It's still Matiangi Speaks. There will be plenty more opportunity to pose those questions to the CS. My name is Olive Burrows, but before I let you go, I did promise you that we would give you a promo to RIP Death Industry by Okokusa.
Pompous processions, fanfare, grandeur, and feasting. are some of the scenes witnessed during funeral ceremonies in Western Kenya.
Mtu amekufa, umzike na sanduku ya shilingi 10, sanduku ya shilingi milioni 1, hiyo ni expense ya bure.
All this splendor come at a price.
Wakijua umekufa, wana make sure wamewacha hiyo boma ikiwa nothing.
Join me Okusa as I take an in-depth look at how COVID-19 has killed what was a thriving sector, but which on the flip side has impoverished thousands of families in the region.
Often Mondays are not days we look forward to, but that definitely is something to look forward to on Monday. That's it for NTV Weekend Edition. Thank you so much for staying with us to the very end. David Agondwa has been our sign language interpreter, and it has been a very busy night for him. And Jam Down coming up next with DJ Mo and Miss Katiwa.
NTV, turning on your world.
I help women find independence by training them in fish farming. It's tough on my back, joints, and can cause headaches. Panadol Extra relieves multiple types of pain. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
How to improve toddler behavior. Show your love. Make sure your displays of affection for your child outnumber any consequences or punishment. Prioritize rules rather than overloading your child with rules from the onset. Prioritize those geared towards safety first.
Kiss Kids diapers. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Kiss Kids, no rashes. Bye-bye rashes. Buy diapers. Choose Kiss Kids.
Get free access to digital learning today. For primary and secondary students, one can now access learning and revision materials that has been approved by KICD. Dial *291# and subscribe to Safaricom Digital Learning and Shupavu 291 today. Tufungue njia, elimu iendelee.
There are different types of sickle cell disease, but the most common type in Kenya is sickle cell anemia.
Patikana kuna sickle cell anemia. Kuelezea babake, alikasirika. Mother-in-law akamsukuma sana, apate mke mwingine mwenye atampatia watoto wazima.
My pain usually comes like turn after turn. It feels like somebody is ripping off my skin and inserting broken glass into my veins.
There are several things that can trigger off a crisis. Low temperatures, cold weather.
We take time to understand sickle cell anemia and the challenges that sickle cell warriors have to live with.
Amani Ridge, the place of peace, is taking shape. The Solomonic Gate is complete. The stone perimeter wall is complete, and the title deeds for every plot. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
This is the first time in my life I see us crossing. Can you imagine?
The migration, they're here, and there's no tourists because of the COVID.
These 5 cheetahs are known as the tunnel boar of the Masai Mara, and according to photographers, they're not very easy to spot.
Everybody who lives around the Mara depends on tourism.
For every client entering this facility, they have to be checked their body temperature.
Your priority is for your guests to be happy and observe the rules.
I hope this COVID goes away soon.
Don't know how, but you did it. Made a way.
This Sunday, we celebrate people and heroes who've survived traumatic experiences in our own country. We had the bomb explosion in 1998, which we're commemorating this Sunday. We've had the Westgate experience, we had the Garissa experience, and recently the Beirut experience. This can be traumatic and can cause fear. So join us this Sunday as we engage with people who went through the traumatic experiences but didn't stop there. They're strong enough and they're now here to share their story. See you Sunday. God bless you.
Lord, you You made a
He only uses one bullet to kill a whole giraffe.
Ndio ile mtu ambaye sugu kabisa, ile muundaji kabisa.
One of the biggest threats for giraffes is habitat loss and fragmentation.
We have recorded some high level of poaching for bushmeat since COVID time.
The community wanted to see something that could bond them. It is something that the community hold it so dear because they know that it is a symbol of peace for them.
If we don't really pay attention to these type of or these species, then we might lose it within a few years. We might lose the giraffes entirely as a species, the silent extinction.
NTV, turning on your world. The following program has been rated PG. It may contain scenes unsuitable for children under the age of 10.